Hey everybody, it's Dan with Pain For You. Today I want to introduce you to a concept I call more often than not. How many of us here, raise your hands if you're a bit of a perfectionist, and if you decide to do something, you're going to go all in, 100%, go me, right? You got to do it perfectly. So where that can trip us up is the first time we slip up or we do something that we don't view was perfect or done right, we beat ourselves up. And if we do that a few times, beating ourselves up feels pretty shitty, so we kind of stop doing what we intended to do in the first place. And so sometimes the goals we set for ourselves and the plans we make for ourselves become fairly unsustainable because we are so demanding of ourselves to be perfect. And so more often than not is something I picked up years ago, and I think it proves very useful in going through life, because the perfectionist in all of us can really make it hard to go through life. And so more often than not kind of gives us a little wiggle room. So I'll apply it to the dietary standard first. You ever know somebody who kind of says, on January 1st, I'm going to go on a diet and I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to eat perfectly and I'm going to be, in 2 weeks I'm going to lose 10 pounds and I'm going to be perfect. And then the minute they slip up and they have a French fry from their friend's plate, oh dear Lord, they beat themselves up so badly. And what does that do? It just kind of brings back the old programs that says, you can't do this. What are you kidding? You can't do this. You can't lose weight. You're not good enough to do this. You're not disciplined enough to do it. Look, you already screwed up and it's only January 5th. So more often than not, in the dietary world says, I'm going to eat properly more often than not. I'm going to exercise more often than not. And if you're doing that, you're still making forward progress. And that kind of gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Now, you can take it too far and you start measuring it and going, well, more often than not means that out of 10 days, I got to do it 6 days and I can cheat 4 days. Look, if you're going to use it as an excuse not to be committed to something, then it's probably not the greatest idea. But more often than not gives you the permission to not be perfect. It gives you the permission to make a few mistakes along the way. And how does this apply to chronic pain and TMS and the stuff I teach all the time? Well, we can decide, all right, I'm going to listen to Dan. I'm going to be indifferent to my pain. And sure enough, the next day your pain's kicking your ass and you're absolutely floored. You're pissed off. You're angry with it. And then all of a sudden you're saying, well, Dan's full of crap. This indifference is not possible. I can't do it. I don't understand this. And now all of a sudden, the concept of indifference becomes impossible because we have these high demands on ourselves to do it perfectly, right? That's our perfectionist tendencies. And if we don't do it perfectly, then it's not possible. So, of course, first time you try to be indifferent to your pain and it's screaming at you, what happens? You immediately either get down on yourself, beating yourself up because I can't do this, I'm not strong enough to do this, and you find yourself with your attention going towards the pain and your fear and your anxieties towards the pain and your future, and you start catastrophizing, and before you know it, you're running the same old program from yesterday and the 300 yesterdays before that, and all of a sudden your perfectionist, critic says, you can't do this, and so you stop trying. Well, this more often than not, again, gives you permission to say, look, I'm working towards indifference, towards the pain or the symptoms. And I know that will be a little by little process, step at a time. But I can get there as long as I don't demand of myself perfection on day one. And so more often than not is a very useful tool to keep you moving forward, to keep you making forward progress and building some momentum without the demand of being perfect and beating the crap out of yourself up every single time you're not perfect. And again, this more often than not process works for everything. For me, I am writing this book. More often than not, I am sitting down to write every day, right? I'm not perfect. I don't get to it every single day. But more often than not, I do. And that's a good thing. Had I made a commitment to myself that says, I'm going to write 3 hours every day, the minute I didn't do it, I'm a piece of shit. I can't do this. This isn't working. Then what happens? I go 3 days without writing, right? These are my real struggles. So more often than not gives me permission to say, as long as I'm making forward progress, I'm keeping the end goal in sight, knowing what I need to do, and more often than not I'm doing that, I'm going to feel better about myself than if I tried to hold myself to these high standards of perfection, which in most cases are not attainable. Look, some of you might think you're perfect and can attain perfection. I know I can't. And so this more often than not concept is a very useful tool for me, so I don't get too down on myself when I am less than perfect. So, not a deep topic here, but I think it's a really useful one. Because if you start digging into any of the emotional discovery processes and this TMS approach and deciding, okay, every day I'm going to do a daily practice. And then one day you just have a hell of a day for whatever reason, whether it be life gets in the way, your emotions get in the way, the symptoms get in the way, whatever it may be, and you don't do your emotional discovery. First of all, don't beat the crap out of yourself. Cut yourself some slack. You're not starting all the way back at step one. Right? Missing a day is not going to kill you. Missing a day is not going to unlearn everything you've learned so far. More often than not, you're going to want to do these daily committed emotional discovery processes, soothing, and more often than not, you're going to work on your attitude of indifference towards the symptoms and the pain. The whatever instead of, oh my God, staying present as opposed to catastrophizing the future based on the memory of the past. Does that make sense? Comment below. Let me know if this seems like a useful tool for you. This is actionable. This is something you can implement today to give yourself a little bit of permission to not be so perfect, to cut yourself a little slack. I hope you find this useful. I definitely find it useful in my world. And let me know what you think. Comment below, share it widely, and I will see you guys in the next video. Love you all. Bye-bye.